Everyone's talking about the subconscious mind like it's this easy to understand concept, but without actually explaining it. And I believe that's because most people have no clue what it is and how to work with it, and they're just remixing things they heard from someone else. So in this video, I'm going to recommend to you 7 books from neuroscience, psychology, NLP, and personal development that have helped me understand what the subconscious mind is, what's true, what's not, how to work with it to actually create the life that I want. Back in 2016, I was a lawyer, very logical, rational, and skeptical about anything that sounded woo-woo. But that's exactly the mindset I used to go down this rabbit hole and test it all out for myself. And now it's funny how I use these concepts in my life and with my clients, because I'm a certified NLP coach, to actually work with our unconscious mind to create the life that we want. So if you're like me and want the real deal and avoid all the bullshit and someone's 90-day manifesting mastery program, then I'm sure you're gonna love these books that no one's talking about, because again, they don't know what they're talking about. And if you're interested in this topic, and if you're interested in how to work with your unconscious mind and create the life that you want, then please subscribe to my channel, because this is exactly what I'll be talking about. So now let's dive in the video. First book, Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, published in 1963. Now this is probably the most popular on the topic because it has the subconscious mind in the title, and that's why I want to get it out of the way, but also because it's written in a very simple, easy to understand language that makes you feel good and hopeful while you're reading about it. You discover that you have a captain, which is your conscious mind, and a crew, which is your subconscious mind, and for them to work well together so that you get what you want, you have to use visualizing, thinking positively about your goal, and have a lot of trust and faith, which the author supports using biblical quotes, which I didn't like at the time, and so that's how you will get what you want. And he gives a lot of examples from his clients that had specific issues with money, business, health, relationships, as well as practical exercises that he gave them to solve those issues. But I didn't like it in 2019 when I first read it, because it just sounded too good to be true and just, think positively and good things will come. But later I found out that Joseph Murphy, together with Neville Goddard, studied with Abdullah, and if you don't know who Neville Goddard is, then I will make another video about advanced esoteric spiritual teachings. He is the guy that influenced a lot of my thinking around the subconscious mind and manifesting. But just to say that Joseph Murphy has a very powerful message condensed in a short, easy to understand way. So I think this is a very good entry-level basic book about the subconscious mind. The second book is one of my favorites on the topic, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, published in 1960. Now this guy was a plastic surgeon who became curious why his patients suffer these massive personality changes after undergoing a small physical surgery. And he says we develop a self-image, which is the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves, what we can do, are capable of, and so on, based on the past events and experiences we've had, the meaning we assign to those events, and the emotions we still carry about those events. And so I will act only in accordance to how successful, capable, smart, ambitious I consider myself to be, and that will in turn, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, determine my future. But he teaches us how to work with the creative success mechanism we have inside, which is the subconscious mind, but he never uses these words, and to program our automatic goal-seeking mechanism by using relaxed visual imagery of us achieving our goals, overcoming our obstacle, being relaxed and feeling the sense of fulfillment and happiness that we achieve. And then when we feel successful now, that's when we will act towards our success. He says we should act now, not wait for it to happen. I highly recommend this book to anyone who wants more than the self-help, but to understand how to work with our mind and what this self-image is, because this is exactly the concept that I use in my coaching to help people change how they see themselves. Third book is one of my favorites, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, published I think in 1903. And this is a very short and concise book, but it's full of principles about the power of your thought. It's a mindset book that doesn't speak about the subconscious mind, but uses very powerful metaphors and simple principles to teach you how to use your mind. And one thing that I remember most and that really struck a chord with me is saying that my mind is like a garden, and if I tend to it and take care of it, then it will bring forth nice, pleasant things. If not, then just weeds will grow into it. And this is exactly how our mind works. If what you choose to focus on, that's what you will see more of. And if you have a gratitude practice, for example, then you probably know the experience of this. So this book is one of inspiration, and it contains the core principles for anyone who's doing mindset work, and I always recommend it to all my clients. So I highly recommend you check out this book because it's just a 1-hour read and it's very powerful and packed. Okay, so let me change the scenery so I keep the video engaging and entertaining for you. Wait a second, because otherwise the the phone will hit the wall. Okay, this should be good. Okay. Fourth book, Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza, 2017. Now, I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he's very good at explaining complex neuroscience and endocrinology to the average Joe. And so how our body is a biological machine, because the way we feel determined by our past memories and our habits, because our neurons have been wiring together for a long time, determines how we think, and then in turn determines how we act, and what we act creates our environment, which again reinforces our personality. And so this is how we live unconsciously. And so in this book, in the first chapters, he explains this mechanism very well, basically the biology of belief. And if you're familiar with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton, these three go very well together. And this is what I like about the book, but you can also get the same ideas if you just listen to him on his podcast interviews. Now, what I don't like about him is the fact that he's demystifying spirituality by taking concepts from Hinduism like the chakras and awaken the Kundalini meditation and calling it his own blessing of the energy centers. Like, really? Just call it what it is. And with mindfulness and meditation, he just says you should meditate for 60 minutes every day until you become no thing, no one, nowhere, nothing, and just an antenna that vibrates at a very high frequency with the feeling of what you want, and then you attract from the quantum field the possibility that will manifest in its reality. Now, all this is just so that the typical Westerner who needs the hardcore science and what he sees he believes thing will start to believe in his theories. And I understand that he wants to make science and spirituality accessible for everyone. And like I said, I think he's doing a very good job at explaining these things. But I don't like the fact that he is discarding spirituality as a thing of its own, and he's trying to bring in some science and making in some hodgepodge theories, try to explain something that clearly we don't have yet the ability to understand. So I would recommend this book for your friend who is so hardcore in his rational mind. So for example, when I was a lawyer, if I would have read this book, I would be like, this is an interesting theory. But meditating for 60 minutes sets you up for failure, because he makes it sound like it's so easy to just attract the person you love and get the success and the health that you want. And then it also makes you attached to the outcome, which is a core no-no when you're thinking about mindfulness and Buddhist practices or programming your subconscious mind. So that's my take on Dispenza, but I'm curious, what do you think? Because I would encourage you to come up with your own opinion and just let me know in the comments, what do you think about Dr. Joe, who is actually just a chiropractor? The fifth book is written by a real neuroscientist with Incognito, Secret Lives of Our Brain by David Eagleman, published in 2011. Even if you're not a neuroscience geek like I am, this book is still easy to read and understand. He explores what is the rest of our brain doing and responsible for if the part of it that is in charge of conscious awareness and logical thought, the prefrontal cortex, is just a small part of it. Our brain has an unconscious mind that we cannot access and don't have control over. So he explains how the brain constantly makes routine associations and works through conditioning. If this happens in my environment, then this is what it means. Because the brain is a meaning-making machine that wants predictability and to use the least amount of energy possible. So we always create routines in our mind, and the neurons that fire together wire together over time and become stronger, and then they go into our unconscious mind. So this is, for example, driving. But then he's also curious, how come when you're in a room full of noise, if you hear someone mentioning your name in the other corner, you instantly pick it up? That's because our brain or our subconscious mind is constantly paying attention to everything, but our conscious mind can only be here and now. Hopefully. He also talks about how our brain is influenced by what's going on in our body, because where does your brain live? In your body, right? So the hormones, the food, toxic shit or nutriments that is in your blood will go up to your brain, and that will influence your mind, because your mind is your brain in action. And this introduced me to the idea that the subconscious mind is actually more about my body than it is about my conscious thinking. And I will make another video about that, because this is the biggest thing that unlocked this whole concept to me, and I use in my work with my clients, because how you feel about things is an indication of what your subconscious mind thinks. And so that's a beautiful intro in this topic. So this book is an amazing introduction to how your brain works, and I would recommend it to someone who wants the scientific approach, but also the questions left unanswered that you can then explore on your own. The next book is one of my favorites on the topic of flow and subconscious mind, even though the author never mentions these words. The Inner Game by Timothy Galway, published in 1972. Now, this guy was a tennis coach who says that the inner game is the one that we play against ourselves, against our lack of focus, our nervousness, our self-doubts and condemnation, and beating ourselves up. And that's what makes us perform badly on the court, but also in real life. He says we have a self one, which is our conscious mind, that is constantly thinking, trying too hard, judging, rationalizing, and so on, which interrupts what our self two, which is our subconscious mind, the body, needs to do on the court. So he says, if your body knows how to hit a forehand, let it do it. Which means quieting our self one and teaching it to trust self two. And we do that through relaxed concentration, visualizing our goals, seeing ourselves in the process of me shooting these videos perfectly, hopefully. But when we're in the action of it, we need to allow self two, which is our body, to do its thing or to learn from experience. Not judging that experience, but to just see it objectively and keep learning. Because he says learning through experience is the only way forward. So I would recommend this book to anyone who wants to excel, to improve his or her performance and become better. Finally, Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung, 1964. Now, if you're not very familiar with Jung's thinking, then I usually recommend this video here to my clients so they understand what the self, the ego, the persona, the shadow, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious is, because these concepts work together. And Jung was obsessed with the process of individuation, of becoming who we truly are by integrating our shadow and shedding light of our unconscious, because that's how we unlock our full potential and our purpose in life and live a life that's true to ourselves. And he believed that our unconscious mind communicates to us through our dreams mostly, but also through all sorts of symbols that we keep noticing, through the art that we create or that we are attracted to, through our body's chronic illnesses or diseases, through all sorts of repeated patterns in our life, in relationships, at work, money, or health issues. So all these things he's trying to decipher. But I have clients that keep having the same recurring dreams of them falling in a toilet or flying or being interrupted or caught by someone. And when we work on their unconscious patterns and unblock some of these things, those dreams either change or go away. So I'm not sure how true his interpretations were, but I do think he was on the right track, because that's how our subconscious mind works. Yeah, this book is a very good read for someone who's like me, really passionate about these things, or that wants to deepen their understanding about the unconscious mind, or maybe if you have a lot of dreams that are recurring and want to go deeper into that. Bonus, My Voice Will Go With You, The Teaching Tales of Milton Erickson by Sidney Rosen. Milton Erickson was probably the most successful hypnotherapist that in the 1960s and 70s would solve the medical and psychological cases no one could. How? By telling his clients stories in such a way, using humor, questions, confusion, metaphors, shock, and specific language patterns that would confuse their conscious mind and work with the unconscious mind, using metaphors, all sorts of reframes, context, and visual imagery. Because he understood that the unconscious mind has its own language, and he was exceptional at delivering a story that would make the person see things differently. And that's why the founders of NLP studied Milton Erickson and developed all sorts of patterns and programs from there. And a lot of hypnotherapy today is based on his work. When I read this book as I was training deeper into NLP and my modalities, it just showed me the power of working with your unconscious mind and the Mercedes of it. Because this guy would just deliver a story and people wouldn't even realize what there was going on, but he would achieve unconscious transformation from within without, putting them in a trance and sit on the couch and all that shit. No, that's not what it is. So this book is incredible if you want to see what working with your unconscious mind is capable of. It's a very short and easy read with just some interesting stories, but it's very powerful and inspiring if you are interested in working deeper with your unconscious mind. Okay, so that's it. Have you read any of these books? And if not, which one are you going to start with? Let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious. All I wanted to do is to give you a place to start on understanding what the subconscious mind is and how to work with it, because it's more than just thinking positively. It's also about our brain, the neurobiology of our body, the stories that we tell ourselves, and the visual images and the symbols that keep showing up. And this is the beauty of the subconscious mind and how I got to where I am today and working with my clients, because we need to have a full integrated perspective on it and not just one person or law of attraction guru saying like, just visualize. Not if you want the real deal. So let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, and I'll be making another video about what the subconscious mind is and how to work with it, and a second video about how the subconscious mind lives in our body through our sensations and our feelings, and much less so in our mind. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thinking positively about your goal, and if you found this video helpful, because I'm truly so that you get what you want, you have to use those dreams either change or go away. So I believe I'm not sure how, but also very similar to the ideas of Maxwell Maltz. Okay.